All right. I just started the recording, so again, this is the first Friday Poetry Spectacular. Forgot to turn the volume back up. Okay, feature time. Who's going first? All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jason Baldinger. Have I been saying that right? Have I been saying that right?
No, grr. There's no
Correct me.
I'm not Belgian. I'm not fucking Belgian.
So it's balding
Grr. You got it. I don't need this. I'm gonna blow this cafe out if I use
pirate
that.
instead?
I grr.
The microphone for the web broadcast.
Oh, okay. I need it then. Well, then we'll bring it down, and I'll just step back a few, and we ought to be able to make this happen. Grr. So we'll start it off with a poem from my book, The Lady Pittsburgh. This is called Holy Ghost. Gotta read it when I'm in Ohio, right? 1958. Kids growing up in Cleveland live on streets that border black neighborhoods, live on streets that border Polish neighborhoods, and they all go to school together. They all get along with no thoughts to color, with no thoughts of color. Summertime. Summertime is just different. Nobody goes into somebody else's neighborhood unless they're looking for a fight. Not because they're black, not because they're Polish, just because it's turf, space in the city. So these kids, these black kids, not Polish kids, sneak down early morning, Friday mornings, sneaking down before them Polish kids would rise and shine and catch those little black kids who are maybe just trying to get a donut, a Danish, or maybe a bear claw before they hightail it back to their home turf. Shortcuts through the park, neutral turf. You can't see what's invisible, baby. But on the way back, those kids, those black, not Polish kids, straddle the imaginary line of space-time continuum, of man-made boundary, but they know they're home safe. Safe. When they see Albert Ayler perched between the brownstones, between black and Polish neighborhoods, honking and squealing and wailing and wailing and squealing and honking and squealing and wailing and loving the bounce-back echo reverberation mix of horns and traffic sounds, city sounds and the sounds of sound, and the sound of breaking glass and the sounds of rocks pelting walls thrown by Polish kids who hated all that fucking noise and all those old men telling their old ladies to shut up and whatever sound the human ever made. God damn it, man, it was cosmic. God damn it, man, it was cosmic. It was cosmic. Albert took no note to anything but sound, and it was cosmic. Around there, folks called him the Holy Ghost. All right, and here's some new stuff from a book called The Lower 48, which will be out in March. This is called Zen in a Western Sunset. Leaning into a bowl of tortilla soup in a little town called Priest Lake where there's barely enough business to warrant a district, barely enough people to warrant a town, and I'm the only person here, so the waiter tosses himself down, and he tells me that his wife opened this place. They had 40 people on staff. Now his wife cooks, and he works as a handyman, waits tables when the other girl they hired is off. But once upon a time, he was an East Coast kid who never felt right in the city noise. So back in the early 80s, when the economy Carter couldn't take credit for slightly improving, went right back in the shitter with Reagan's austerity, he lost his job and decided to head west via the oil fields of Texas. And he made plenty of money. He met his wife, but both of them still weren't happy. So he saved up enough, quit his job, and they wandered until they found Idaho. He studied up and became a mortgage broker, and she bought this place. And it was good living for a while. He got tired of the bullshit, though, trying to oversell and bury people in mortgages, so he left it. His wife and he get by all right, but the whole goddamn dream is just dying up. And everyone here with a lick of sense or no family already bailed. After they automated the lumber mill, they split for the new boom of North Dakota. And hell, if he could sell this place, he and his wife would take back to the road and slowly see it all 150 miles at a time. And what can I tell him? Saying everything falls apart sounds trite, but sometimes it's true. And sometimes it falls apart so perfectly leaving you nowhere, with nothing, just zen and a western sunset. When there's nothing left to sing, I pay my check and take back to the road with all the paint stripped off, wandering in the dim that is 9 o'clock in Boise, Idaho, wandering in the snowdrifts of Memorial Day whorehouses, trying to keep it between the irrigation ditches until I hit another diner in Twin Falls where a California waitress knows rain, sleet, snow, ice, sunshine, mountain goats, and Idaho. This is called Back When We Were Wild. Kansas, I wish we could share a kiss. But the prairie sneaks up so goddamn fast and then never leaves. I spent 3 days boiling in 100-degree heat, driving across endless flats with a ghost who plays mute co-pilot. I haven't seen a hill, but somewhere back there was a famous frontier town I missed. I've been reading Raymond Carver while I drive. It seemed more useful than maps. In a junk shop or a hotel with no hot water, I catch a smell that reminds me of atonement or of another time, back when we were wild. Goodbye, Pacific Ocean blue. Storm clouds puff up with a sense of purpose that sings, goodbye, Pacific Ocean blue. Blues hang on Oregon, a cloak of rain, a cutlass of endless drizzle, donuts dipped in rainwater, taste of the sweetness of the sea. Outside motel room doors, kids smoke pot, and they say awkward when I leave my room for a few beers. I think I should charge them a joint for the real estate. Their chattering voices slowly become tiny stone deserts as I walk towards a bar where someone screeches karaoke journey. We are all mongrels in the swank bosom of a long-dead America. Down Burnside, illusions are painted in strip bars and street lights, and I write a treatise of flooded dreams on the back of my hand. Last night I dreamt of a wizard's hat and a green knight. Last night I dreamt I was watched over by a crystalline mousse of loving grace. Last night I dreamt of Crater Lake snows higher than clouds. Last night I dreamt I wasn't the drunkest man in Redmond. Last night I dreamt that water was my imagination. I woke listening, the strange elemental whirl of motel air conditioners, and I remembered spending my last 50 cents to play slot machines, to win bus fare, anywhere that it wasn't cold. This is from a perspective chapbook for Night Ballet, which is going to be called the Studs Terkel Blues. This is called The Ballad of $9.63. I was tired of working retail. People pissed me off so easily. I was young and unimpressed with stupidity. I was 20 and smarter than everyone. And so I started looking for work in factories because it paid so much better than retail and because you didn't have to deal with fucking customers. And in America, when you drop out of college to help your mother with the bills after she leaves your stepfather, you better be able to make money. I worked overnights in a factory outside of Newcastle, 11 to 7, Sunday through Thursday, starting off drying bathtub molds for $8.50 an hour. We had to make 50 to 100 bathtubs a night. And I was the first step. Workbench and chamois, drying down those big hulking molds as they rocked and danced on a hook and metal ball bearing. The line was constantly down, so I dried 10 molds, then stop for an hour and sit outside, work a pack of cigarettes, sit on the grass, watch the moon, and listen to men talk about cars and the girls they were gonna fuck. When it got colder, I'd sit on boxes and close my eyes, pretend I wasn't asleep, and try not to look at my watch and realize it was only 4 a.m., and then 7 after 4, then 12 after 4, and then still not 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever time it needed to be for me to be numb and drive the 40 minutes home, trying like hell not to fall asleep. I got promoted to roller. Somebody else was now in charge of the chamois. I got a wire paint roller that I kept in a locker and a mask to keep the fiberglass out of my lungs. When the line wasn't down and the guy ahead of me decided he was going to spray the molds, me and another guy went over the mold with rollers to make sure there were no air bubbles, nothing flawed to wreck the integrity of these fine fiberglass behemoths. The promotion came with a raise, now $9.63 an hour, and only 6 weeks till I was inducted into the union. And every night I'd roll air bubbles out of tubs and dream of sunrise over Moraine Lake. I could think of my girlfriend and smell her through the respirator instead of the stink of fiberglass. And I'd drive home in the morning having changed out of the same clothes I now wore every night, the ones that were black and stiff with chemical compounds, and I'd peel bits of fiberglass off my skin as I drove and throw them out the window. Seedling helicopters, grace in the wake, trying to push me along as I tried like hell to stay awake. All right. Since I have plenty of time, I'll just keep going here. This is called Sisyphus. Morningside Avenue, Layla on the radio, the ending with the piano and Dwayne Allman's steel guitar crying piercing notes. Trees change leaves as I pass that then crumble and exhaust. And I wonder where the year has gone, which way time washed out, pushed through and left September. September, a sleeping motel. These roads know my name and I'm familiar, I'm gone, have been gone, am constantly leaving, and I can feel the mountains in my blood waiting for the chance to break my heart. And I never needed any help breaking my own heart. The Allegheny Valley below weaves Tuesday afternoon, the shortcut paralleling this van down the hill, then back up. This is what Sisyphus would do. Let's go this direction. This is called The Hymn for the Girls in Friendship Park. It's good chai tea, by the way. It's been a couple of months since the last time we ran into each other. Friendship Avenue or through a coffee shop window. And I joke that there should be a sign here that says, this park is for receiving hugs from random strangers and vague acquaintances. I take a seat. I've got somewhere to be. She, a friend's former lover, still uncomfortable in American skin after a year in Europe. And we chat around the weather, the spring, the militant feminist graffiti, chalk dust ground into the sidewalk. It's April, she says, and I always feel like when April comes, I should change everything. And I tell her maybe she should. Then I feel that way, and that it's Pittsburgh winters and the way they wear you down. They leave a pile of ash at the end of March, and the first sun of April that declares spring sweeps that dust off the sidewalk, out of the bed, out of the front seat of the car, and then we can start rebuilding ourselves again. She asked me how the poetry is coming, and what I'm doing nowadays, and I tell her, but we both keep coming around to how things come apart. The endless ends that never justify, they're always frayed. And I don't say, but I think about this last year, where nothing stays in place. And I wonder if the inability to make sense of any real settled-in calm only proves that I'm a drunk, a coward, or maybe just a fool. And I can tell I took being candid too far when I mention a friend who overdosed. We can mention things like falling down or apart, but not big things, not words like coma or dying. The edges are always too clear, too close. Even as we speak, things are fading away. I take her number, but I won't call. I excuse myself from the conversation that went out anyway. There's a storm coming. I have somewhere else to be. I wrote this poem sitting in a creek 3 miles outside of Elkmont, Tennessee. It's called Heaven. In my mid-20s, when everything went sideways, it seemed I ended up in Elkins, West Virginia, if for no other reason than it was the last town before those old mother mountains took over. wrapping addled head in gauze, putting spinning thoughts to sleep. Outside of Elkins, heaven was a hole in the rock seen clear from the highway. Cars and microbuses parked on the berm in neat lines. If you jumped the fence, skinny down the gully, and back up the other side, there would be greetings from private property waterfalls, 40-foot drops, open caverns doubling as a shallow lake. And in the summertime, hippie girls and boys passed joints. Little kids played naked in the falls. Old people sat on canvas chairs, beautiful and illegal and free. Fall and winter, alone at the pulpit, respite found and passed with silent congregation. But eventually, those mother mountains couldn't hold me. I needed bigger feet. In return, years later, heaven desolate, heaven gone. The water dammed above, empty holes in rocks, sun seated on the interstate, no falls, no hippies, no joints, no kids, lake nothing, a series of dried, muddy stones. And I wonder to an empty cliff face whether stories of travels and beds and bars and women and drunks are enough to keep you, to insulate whenever whatever nest you build starts to fall down. I wonder, what is a man without heaven? How much time do I have left? Okay, I'll keep going then. Do a couple more from Diane's perspective book. This is called TB at the End of the Century. Standing in a tuberculosis ward at the end of the century, in a hospital built at the beginning of that same century, looking out at a city that crumbles, a hospital gown and socks, room to room between tests for a job in a factory. I'm not in the army, but a soldier all the same. Rust Belt veteran in Metal Husk Hills. A union job at the end of the manufacturing era. Physical first, cough and then piss in a cup. Then cut some hair in case the piss cup lies. Then breathe in a tube to make sure my lungs work. In a tuberculosis ward that isn't anymore, my lungs still work. I can breathe. I have healthy tissue, which ensures that I can get a job where they spray fiberglass fibers into the air. And if you don't wear a mask, those fibers will stick inside your lungs, making healthy tissue inert. The fiberglass cutting into cilia trees that bleed, that scar, that freeze lungs and suffocate you. But at least not in your own blood. Three more? Four more?
Keep it at 15 minutes.
Oh, I'm only at 15 minutes. Well, shit. I got all the time in the world. Well,
I just discovered there's a counter on the recording.
hey, that's great. Well, then let's go with me stalling for a few moments while I look for a poem that's here somewhere. That's where I thought it was. This is called After the Scorpion. After the scorpion, rivers overflow with libations that keep the corporeal self moving. Pizza shops fill with punk rock girls that leave us howling. Sparks start inert engines that leave us lost in nowhere hills and nowhere bars where we swallow the deluge of season, mid-season, fading season. May the ground you walk on make itself known to you once. Hiawatha's headband has one feather as she sings about the prom in her vague alt-country band. She ghost dances faux squaw, all white irony on her skin. Maidens of numerology stage front dance. They lean left, then shake. Repeat 3 times. And then they lean right and shake. Repeat 3 times. And then they toss their hair 3 times. And girls, you may be epileptics, but you ain't no dancers. Look out. There are meanings in smoke rings, and we can read the entrails of hangovers, and we can be assured of absolutely fucking nothing. Oh, sweet nothing. 3 a.m., Moments careen away, Lorigan Street greeted by karaoke Thunder Road, the moon bouncing ball over words reflected in the sky, and tomorrow we can wake to little fires under our eyelids. Tomorrow we can try and piece together just how the hell we got home. Tomorrow we can stare off into a city that we can burn down whenever we choose. This city that clings like a winding sheet. This is called To Change. It's New Year's Eve, and we sat on the couch drinking delirium as the ball dropped. And she said, "To a year of change." And I raised my glass and said, "Cheers." And then we kissed and made our way to bed. 2 days later, I'm on time, but my district manager is there, meeting me at the back door. She's smoking jitters in the cold, tossing it over the fire escape, and she says we need to talk. I follow her into her office, that's not hers actually, and I can already hear the grimness as she said I didn't have a significant sales increase and she has to let me go. I nod. It's bullshit, but I nod. And I walk up front to collect whatever is laying around. She reminds me of the bottle that I kept in the basement, and I tell her I don't keep a bottle. And she says she doesn't believe me, but I can take the high road. We, as a store, finished the bottle on Christmas Eve. We got drunk and sold the bare walls, all of us happy that if we had to work on a holiday, at least we could all be drunk and work together. And I got home and sat on our bed and called my girlfriend and said, "Your toast has come true." And she said, "Maybe this is a good thing." I said, "Maybe this is a good thing." Neither of us were prepared for how much the toast would come true. All right. Another road poem, a home poem, and then we'll see what happens. This is called Neapolitan Carpet. It's about Nevada, Vegas particularly, so of course it has to in some way be for Hunter S. Thompson. The black legs of storms hang, Nevada's oscillating highways. What the fuck am I doing here? How the fuck did I get here? Why would anyone willingly seek shelter in this city tomb? Endless mall, the Vegas Strip. Tug on Budweiser in a bag. Watch the lights of natives glazed over. Tourists carry vicious look. Everyone's been burned. And if you see anyone making a fool of themselves, it's guaranteed you will pay admission. And it's clear to see the sinking dreams in the eyes of the Guatemalan and Filipino women handing advertisements for strip bars and whores. Fingerprint cunts. Glossy cards slicked without rain lying in the street. Fountains are fucking dancing. The oasis hides, insulated in bells and whistles that ring tra-la, tra-la, praise be entropy. Sick sitting among flamingos, I glide across Neapolitan carpets and crash into a 22nd floor view, a bourbon drink in hand, face on glass, neon swirls. Hunter, I still believe the right kind of eyes exist, but that high water mark is buried under the Mojave shifting sands. All I can see is Zabriskie Point. Troubled sleep. Endless night never breathes. It just sucks air when it starts to turn blue. I pace and stare cityscapes. How far will we go to be stranded? By morning, I've lost my taste for ruins, and I play Maggot Brain over and over as I follow Dean Martin Boulevard into the deadlights, the desert where no buildings belie the barrenness of decay. This is called Hymn to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. This barroom window offers an excellent view of the sunset. If I turn myself just a bit, I can catch the sun in between the domes of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. If I hadn't quit smoking, this would be the perfect time for a cigarette. Here in the reflection of my homecoming, trying to order the fragments of my memories, my travels into neat rows of stories, into novels that I'll be able to write 2 sentences at a time. But shit, all of this is fleeting. The dusted purple sky, the highlighted blue bar smoke, the cold Bell's Oberon in my hand, which I find myself consistently peeling at the label as I wait for my housemate and his girlfriend to return from the jukebox. They paw at each other and play grab ass as they flip pages of selections. Big stars, Oh Dana and Kizame. A stray Sam Cooke song, Bowie and then the undertones. X-ray specs and thank fucking God no Marquee Moon. By now the pawing graduates to making out, and the buzzcocks ever fallen love shambles out of the speakers. This song and Slade's Fox on the Run are the parameters in which I can fill out my existence. They are the touchstones of reality that prove this bar is, and that prove that I am here, and I always hear them when I'm here. So that makes me sure that I'm in Pittsburgh for the first time in months. And I always miss this place more upon my returning. The newness of familiarity almost makes me innocent. And I'm happy to be back, to shoot pool in the back room with no effort put towards winning, and to cash out of here and head to another bar, even if it's just to buy a 12-pack, and spend the night trying to focus on Neil Young and Devo starring together in a grainy VHS that looks like shit through the mass weight of all this goddamn beer. Last poem. And then the very sniffly Nikki Allen will come and talk to you. Well, she'll frog at you, really. It's a bad time for a cold. This is called Sarah Ann. Sarah Ann, your eyes are a bend in the creek from which we can see all the way to Charleston. Sarah Ann, for you I want nothing more than to buy a parcel of land and settle into a quiet life, riding tractors in circles. Sarah Ann, the years are nothing more than your grandmother's plastic trinkets, my father's cufflinks, and wedding rings. Sarah Ann, on Saturday night we can worship in the corner bar of our choice. Sarah Ann, when the supermarket folds, we can live on fish our children catch in their teeth. Sarah Ann, the post office is a trailer park. Our mail is Pony Express. Sarah Ann, will you sign my disability checks, dotting your eyes with little suns, hearts, and flowers? Sarah Ann, in the lights of Tipples, we'll see their blinking as a shield to keep planes away. Sarah Ann, with the sun nested in your hair, your wrist brace, and your can of Diet Coke, you'll be forever 19. Sarah Ann, on summer nights we can move the TV to the front porch and watch until well after dark. Sarah Ann, the dog is dead. We buried him on the far side of the road. Sarah Ann, God may be dead. We move like locusts through here. Thank you. Don Pablo's parking lot.
Is there any way I can not use the mic because I'm Germ City?
I've got
Just
4
move it.
extras.
Can
Not that hard to sanitize. I've done it before.
Okay. Hi, I am very sick, so I apologize in advance for any snot or anything. I'm gonna try really. Jason, can you give me a water?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna try really hard. I don't know if I'm gonna go as long as Jason because my throat hurts. No, thank you. I appreciate it though. I just took some Alka-Seltzer a little bit ago. Thanks. This first one doesn't have a title. Our blood sugar dropping in unison, solved by grilled cheese sandwiches with thick tomato segments lashed with garlic. You light opium incense to cover the combination of coffee grinds and feet funk. You're out of socks and wearing shitty slip-ons from the thrift store. It is summer. You are always sweating. This was when I did not hate you. When mornings were viceroy and malt liquored among pile of bodies in a living room. Pre-disgust, mid-love, Like that pause before the thunder, I wanted to believe you are harmless. You turned into a weapon. Cold casing, sharp edges, impossible grip, my tremble of trigger finger, and electric violence, loved by an amendment of ghosts. And people are not solutions, despite all that trivia. Limit of my love so wild and stung, I had to give up the chase, return to the frayed power lines of us, and wait. Also, please just hold your applause till the end because that really throws me off and I can get through it faster and feel less horrible. Thanks. But snapping, I encourage. This next one's called States. Georgia. Billboards in red clay, fruit stands, hotel soaps so slight in their geometry they become phases of the moon before the shower ends. Hallway carpet I will never see again, hum of ice machine. Virginia. We dig a big hole in the sand, so big that the children of strangers start appearing with shovels and buckets and helping. At the end of the day, we let it go, and by evening, the crater is swollen with ocean, a full mouth pushing its food around, form losing shape. Thick aloe leaves snapped and shared, scrubbed like erasers on the essays of our shoulders. Kentucky. The beautiful girl with the blue dreads, her thin as reed companion, head low and yellow shirt. The poems in our car with no heat, shivers down the highway. A man named Falcon in the back room walking circles, practicing, getting lost between bridges, slingshot amid brewery. South Carolina, population of jellyfish against my morning run. Wisconsin, passing through, your fields on big hills, cheddar sky. So, how many of you remember being 17?
I try and forget it every day.
Oh man, water's good. Well, this poem is about being 17. I like how this is right at my crotch. Tommy, can you hear me? Tom Pablo, can you hear me? All right, sorry. It's okay. 17. Harmonica around my neck, blowing off-kilter notes into the open of a dolly-plastered bedroom. On and on while my first love strummed guitar, while his shy way of sing-wailing coated the air between us. He was finally gaining weight and not trying to convince me to kiss him. Things were not perfect, but they were okay. We were in his garage when he showed me the box. Within it, the following: baby blue AA book, a belt buckle that said Bud, and a framed picture of a very young family. This is all I have of him, he said. I reached out to touch the buckle, to thumb through the book. The wind snapped past my extended digits as he cupped container in palm and threw it across the garage against holes of drywall from knuckle punches between band practices. The objects scatter, and the quiet is stupid. And then, running around with a dictaphone, demanding the grocers give their full names into the microphone. The tape gets lost in the mail. Driving with one hand while getting me off with the other, back bending up from leaned back passenger seat as I came like a champ and the windows were down. The summer was wild. The whispers of hours into wires. We've had tornadoes and bomb threats coupled with when are you coming homes and marriage proposals and mechanical pencil and over the telephone. Once more now with feeling. We used headlights for sun during late-night basketball games, a team of polo shirts just off work. Nobody cared about paying rent yet. This is called young, and you can't have it again. And I never thought that would be it, that years would push themselves between, that no knots held rope taut enough to keep it close. You get the faded things, the pleading in front yards and the soft blue of sweaters and open bathroom windows, the notebooks and libraries, some messes, the glories. All of it pushed together, blended, like watercolors wet again. Also, I should mention most of my poems tonight are from a new collection I'm going to be putting out through Night Ballet Press. Yeah. I have for my last book, I have copies of it if anybody's interested. This is called Stomping Ground, and this is about my hometown. I am from a small town called Trenton, Ohio, between Cincinnati and Dayton. And when I was little, there was one stoplight in our town, and our school was white as white can be, which fit right in. um, but yeah, it changed. It changed a lot. This is called Stomping Ground. The cornfield is gone. My neighborhood playground of stock and rows turned magician's assistant, cut in half, disappearing dead ends, now a road. You go through my memory to leave. The shutters are a different color. Barns into soccer fields, interstate expanding a new distance ridiculous, the concept of home, when you are too busy trying to define the word concept. The red and white steel mill shout, favorite landmark between anywhere and my grandmother's house. My candy cane sleeping in soot, fences with barbed arms raised, the washed-out turn of road that bucks and giggles in the rain. Formerly, the only mall for miles, now a ghost town. The junkyard's dog is dead, and in the belly of Finley Street sits my grandfather's church. The shack still shacks, the grass patch still grass. The weeds, I've seen you yesterday. My grow anywhere champions, please convince me of this, that it was just yesterday. Bobby declared his undying dysfunctional love for Tina on all the busted windows of Amanda Elementary before they were busted. Bobby heart Tina on all the panes. They bulldozed it down. Image of a boy leaning into girl as their roller skates shift, roll, shift on flat carpet, bag of hands in a back seat, chorus line of boys, cap brims cupping faces. How many towns have to die? How many corners of before will tuck themselves in like this? How many caved-in monuments? How can you mourn the certainty of things passing when it feels awful and good all at once? Awareness will not halt inevitable process. Diet of love letters and missing limbs. Memory sets a fine table, says sweet things, asks you to stay the night, kicks you out with cheeks still shouting of pillow crease and sleep. Little did you know you are loved incredibly by everything you miss. The parts of self that split, learn lesson left, stuck it in the ground to grow vine, web, and rust, come back to point in its general direction. This is what we wept for. The trees, the roots, the corn, all ripped like never been. Painted over with asphalt and playing card houses. The boundary ghosts puckered by repetitive entry and exit. The first fissure of heart. The pockets of places. Parking lot of religion argument. Railroad tracks by the boys' house. The sound they make passing under my moving. Junkyard gone. Where do junkyards go? Everywhere there ever was a kiss. Front yard. Street middle. In hunks of metal. Over breakfast. Below the table. In company of stars that never promised anything. There is the fence. Gone or broken. Hardly matters. Neighborhood of dead ends, shallow of our deep ends, whatever the fire ate away, swigs of a building gone, one black bicuspid jutting, sidewalk of polka dot gumrock, sunset grinning over memory, and even that reads like fiction at this point, for the street signs that mean something, that still handshake the gun on sight, for the known we never know again, ours the bravest, the only way the once could be lived. This is called Dog Heart, and this is about, this is new, and this is about, my mother was never really a mother. She liked to, her solution to conflict a lot of the time was to leave. So this is a lot, this is just about that departure, kind of witnessing it. Dog Heart. In the bowl of your hands, some teeth. Wanting and waiting added to the list of criminal activity, of feeling stitched with bow tie and bone. I clamor to know how good the gone was. Rush of pickled blood to cheek, gallop of your breath in the brief of screen door, bag bumping knee bend, but it's no secret. I mean, you leave so frequent. There must be a whistle that buries its pitch in your pulse. There must be a howl devouring all direction. There must be a reason. A magician, an end to arrive to. There must be something thumping wild under that muzzled chest. This is a short one called How Does It End? Call the blue. Whistle up the dogs. A river tied like ribbon in your hair, your rock of neck. A wrist or two. If you go, we'll call it thunder. If you stay, we'll say miracle. This is called Ending Predicted. I don't know I don't know if it's just me or if everybody kind of experienced really strong gut instinct or that kind of, before something's over, you recognize that it's going to be over and you see it, like it's there and you're horrified. You're like, this is going to end. This is going to, and that happened a lot to me when I was younger and I would like date somebody. I don't know. But definitely my first love, there were a couple times where, you know, your first love is usually your first love for a reason because they can't be anything else but your first. Which is just as important as your last or whatever, but, you know, so rarely does it span time. That, by the way, spanning time, I don't know if anybody's a Buffalo 66 fan with Vincent Gallo, but his whole thing when they go in the photo booth, he keeps saying, we're spanning time. Pretend like you're spanning time with me, because they're pretending they're, never mind. Nobody likes my jokes. This is called Ending Predicted. We were little kings in swimming holes, hotel room and track meet apart, when you worked nights and I could read it in the REM of your eyelids, when we videotaped it, and these bare arms wrapped around you, hips like bridges, the driving and driving, all of that driving, songs that soundtrack scenery perfectly. Do you, dear life, fit in this thimble? Or starfish your body over entire ocean to prove that you fit into nothing? I can wither you down to a moment. Your elbow in a square of a sun, tracing the scar across your middle, pressed together in a dressing room, on the roof, in the water. How am I on time?
15 minutes in.
Okay, sweet. I'll have just a few more. This is called, let's read this one. This is called Poinsettia, and they're poinsettia. It's poisonous, right? Yeah. That's what this one's called. I wish to warn them all. It will start with poems. Penmanship and veins snipped with sharpened edge, flare gun against moon. Biceps of ivy disguised in paley or larynx, a dark seat between mortar, pestle. It will start with my blood in the corners of your mouth. You unhinge to eat me, galloping bite, but only when the river is red, only when I am your piece of meat. Pledges and promises and oaths and oceans, a picture wedged into mirror, shared cigarette, whatever it takes to get that wall down. The better to devour you with. Opting pressure over venom, tighter winding fists into the fabric until we are sternum to sternum, bit books in two, aim connect bloom, sopping rock of bile, swinging low, dissolving tread off shoe. It must just be the genus in you. Yeah. Let's see. Let's get heavy. Might just be the fever talking, but let's get heavy. This is called Mia Jolie. You were born and you died in a sea and a sea. The fin of your tail already split into feet. The coral preparing books of bedtime stories for the anticipated nights, their binding fused by underwater flame and spear of seaweed, charred drifts in symbolic green, all for a day that never came. Tide tucks the sand in one ellipses at a time, pulling back sheets of grain. You are buried here with the mixtapes and starfish limbs. 11 years, 12. It is like dreaming about dreaming. Telling the story means plucking a paragraph from the scroll and giving you that, anticipating some summation when the reason is extinct, off the list and over. Arriving on a fish hook, the prince of all things necessary. You were conceived in an oath of vodka and a whisper on the roommate's bedroom floor. When you know before you know, it is like that. Humming the song that will be ending on the radio when you switch the channel knob. Youth has a better way of making you believe in promises. You grow to doubt anything sworn. The bed was a boat, and Christmas meant sailing on haze filling the room, pot smoke and a bonsai tree where presents were imagined, not there. We had pillows and notebooks, and the sky wanted to kill us. We stayed there all day, ignoring families and clocks. There were 4 hands on my belly for hours. You lived to be a wink, a snapped twig, an argument in the kitchen, objects stitched for movement. You were a suitcase filled with pages, a shelter fashioned from finger steeples and rotten mint. You were my sugar craving, my house key borrowed. When the skin felt ready to listen, you were the rain I walked home in. Let's see, I think I just want to do, just do one more. Thank you very much for being an attentive audience. I really appreciate it, especially because I'm not feeling that great. All right, we'll just do the one that's in front of me. This is called Forgiveness. Two young, once bruised, stand around in the same room, mended. Selves have lived and died since then. Hair that boasts no split ends, socks that match a newly acquired freckle. Don Henley's Heart of the Matter is playing on the receptionist's tiny radio, whose antenna is capped with a corner of foil and a starburst wrapper. The dentist is 2 rooms down the hall drilling. The patient's skin is green under all of her jewelry. Root canal rolls out ballet-like. Your dried flowers were crushed in the move. There was nothing we could do. Massa blooms the color of rust, husk of stems arranged like broken fingers. They went right to sand. My love sealed the windows, took on a bitterness, aorta of aspirin. Stop with the licorice gum, your breath is a headache. In the lineage of heartbeats per minute there is a valley, a mountain, a million open mouths and paper floors. A floor crowded by the medicine balls that punch through them. A stick, some glue, last rites, I cannot mend it. Call upon the cadavers, we need everyone. Sam Cooke sings, "Darling, you send me," and the girls melt like cheddar in a microwave. The regret is a dinosaur ducking through trees, wearing wrinkles in orbit on knees and neck. It is fossilized, studied. It might be wildlife and needs protecting. And the postcards on the bookshelf, distance turns it make-believe. Thank you very much.
Check, check. Yeah, I've actually sanitized mics before. They've got this nifty little foamy thing in there that you can replace, and that just throw it in bleach. I want to throw a thank you to John Burroughs, as I'm holding up the book I published for him 2 or 3 months ago. But he helped get Nikki and Jason here at the First Friday Poetry Spectacular. Thank you for coming. I make it to Pittsburgh very rarely, but usually in conjunction with something that Steel City Slam has going on. So But right now, my travel budget is nil. Hey. Well, it's kind of hard being the slam manager. I don't like the term slam master. Slam manager for the entire Northeast Ohio region, and being unemployed. There's not much money in this. But all right, now we come to tonight's poetry slam. We've only got 2 competitors, so it'll be quick. But, all right, we've got 3 judges lined up, 2 of whom are our features, and I'm sure have both judged poetry slams before. 1 other whom I don't really know, so, hey, how to judge a poetry slam. Each poet that comes up here will do a piece. You'll give them a score of 0 to 10, 0 being the worst piece of shit you've ever heard, 10 being you want to have that poet's children. It's particularly funny with male judges, so. You can use a decimal place, like a 6.5, a 7.8, a 9.4. Keep it simple, 1 decimal, no scores of pi, no square root of anything. I'm an editor, not a mathematician. Poets competing, it's a 3-minute slam. This is just for fun. There's no points for Lake Effect this month. We'll start Women of the World qualifiers next month, but hey, this is just for fun. Our small audience here, just make sure you let the judges know what you think. Judges, don't let them sway you too much. Yeah, I'm not going to do the whole spiel. Don't need to. All right. Before we get the slam started, just so that our judges have a point of calibration, we do what's called a sacrificial poet, which more often than not ends up being me, just for the heck of it. But you'll give me a score just like anybody else competing in the event. I'm not actually in the event, but then when the other poets come up here and are better than me, you'll give them a higher score. And if for some reason they're not better than me, you'll give them a lower score. Simple enough? All right. I don't have to worry about the 3 minutes here. So since we haven't heard a million times, okay. Well, it was written this year, but you just published it, so. Dear spammers, while I applaud your use of clever wording to get around my spam filters, you're doing it all wrong. Offering someone who once weighed 394 pounds a product guaranteed to make your pants too tight might not be the most effective marketing strategy. I've already got products that can do that. They're called bacon and chocolate covered bacon. Instead, why not appeal to my sense of the fantastic? Offer to make my magic beanstalk reach the land of giants. Or how about my patriotic instincts? Say you'll transform my model rocket into a throbbing cruise missile. Don't you want to sell me magic mushrooms that'll grow my Nintendo game from Chubby Cherub to Blaster Master? But from my experience, this still isn't right. What you're trying to sell me is the wrong approach. I get off easy enough. This needs to be about her. A little extra swelling isn't going to help if it does nothing to lengthen 45 seconds of ecstasy. Wouldn't a better product be something that mixes caffeine for longer stamina with a mild muscle relaxer to loosen a man's jaw? Hold on. Forget I said any of that. Give me a couple months. My junk mail sales pitch will find its way to your inbox soon enough. Okay, judges, this is where you write a number on the board and hold it up for me to see. All right, from low to high, the sacrificial poet has a 6.5, a 7, and a 7.4. Yay! I should be able to do that math in my head right now, but I can't, so 14, 20, 20.9. All right. Should get my stopwatch out. Remember where my stopwatch app is. All right. Our first competitor is Azriel Johnson.
Metaphor's friend met a false man, was a boss man with an embossed gun. An embarrassed grin crossed the grassed chin, was half-assed in and harassed sin. Once he cashed in, just a flash then, he was face down, alley downtown. 'Twas a loud sound, but it's gone now, and the con man, he's gone, man. Metaphor's friend didn't know then that his false friend would be his end. Wooden soul mends, but a bullet bends, and the blood rends, and the life ends. Metaphor's friend was a godsend, and a godson till he got done. Now the words run, it's the ink blood and the pen gun, paper pavement. Willie's sonnets wrote in Rorschach's, butterfly paths, hurricanes crash. And the once man who harassed sin met a demon and didn't see him. Sound was absent from the violence. Metaphor's friend crawled the street's end and was found then. He was drowning. Sirens shrilling, losing feeling, sonnets peeling, face concealing. Operating, words were writing, the best for reading, lines are bleeding. Pause for breathing, close to ending. Metaphor's friend, he was stitched then, used the line's end, made the heart mend. Karma struck then, and the false man fell at last, and Metaphor's friend, he breathed out, and he breathed in again.
All right, judges. All right, from low to high, we have a 7, a 7.2, and a 7.6. Give it up for the poet. That gives us a 21.8. All right. Our next competitor is Skylark.
The union of credit and craft. There might not be a lot of poetry in finance. Few write sonnets about their savings accounts or a dirge for their debit card. But I tell you, if my direct deposit stopped, I would compose a mournful ode. Maybe more poets would balance their checking accounts if a chapbook instead of a calculator were required. My boss wants me to make banking easy. But maybe we can make banking poetry. If you can count the syllables in your haiku, can you count your credit card receipts? Organize them into stacks, 5, 7, and 5. Money makes the world go round, and we poets never seem to have any. So we watch the planet spin by, jingling the last 2 quarters in our pockets. Trust me, when I handle more money in a day than I make in a year, or 5, I know. Make banking poetry. Put a check register as a centerfold in your nearly published chapbook. Think of your monthly statements as an epic poem, from the mountaintops of payday down to the lows of multiple overdrafts. There's always a lovely siren urging disastrous behaviors in epics, so steer clear of enticements to sabotage yourself with high-interest credit. The much-feared enemies are the fluorescent-lighted payday lenders who prey on the vulnerable in their hour of need. Honest financiers to the rescue. They ride in on a white receipt instead of a white horse. Let's make banking poetry.
All right, from low to high, we have a 6.7, a 7.6, and a 10. Give it up for Skylark. Give it up for my exploding pen.
Yeah, exploding pens. Woo!
3. I hate math, I hate math, I hate math. 24.3. All right, that means Skylark has won tonight's slam. Give it up for Skylark. All right, this has been the First Friday Poetry Spectacular, coming to you live for our currently one online viewer, coming to you live from Karma Cafe in Canton, Ohio. We do this here every month. We also do Stardust Poetry on the third Friday of each month. I don't know who the next show's features are. I'm a little bit behind. National Poetry Slam 2 weeks ago kind of mentally wiped me out. So, but oh well. But again, we'll be back here in 2 weeks for Stardust and clevelandpoetics.blogspot.com. There's a calendar at the top of the page with all kinds of Northeast Ohio poetry events. I know Jason and Nikki are headed to Columbus tomorrow for another feature. I can't remember the name of the venue, but Cafe Kerak. And yeah, so I mean, anybody checking out the recording tonight or tomorrow, if you're in the Columbus area, hey, head out there. I know there's a writing night show tomorrow in Cleveland for those of you who should have driven here tonight, but oh well. So, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Oh, I can't walk down the street without thinking of you. Your voice is in everything I do. It's in the buildings, in the cars I pass, it's in the people